You hear all that?
Siuzi na sitaiuza, na hata nikifa watoto wangu hawafai kuiuza.
Zolani amekajakiwa.
What? Where is he?
I don't know.
Calvin.
Akinana, all this time ulikuwa una pretend to.
Nilijua utaelewa mpango wangu.
Lakini dad,
wewe fanya kazi yako Mel. It's not an easy ride.
Zawadi. Please.
Good afternoon and a warm welcome to KBC Lunchtime News on this second day of February 2023. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Njue and Lucy Mora will be our sign language interpreter for this live newscast. We begin with matters cancer, where 4 county first ladies have called for early screening and treatment of cervical cancer to avert deaths among patients. Migori First Lady Agnes Ayako hosted her 3 colleagues, Betty Mutai from Kericho, Margaret Lusaka from Bungoma, and Dorothy Nyong'o from Kisumu at the cancer screening and treatment camp at Nyarach Secondary. The camp was aimed at raising awareness on the importance of early detection of cancer and diffuse the stigma associated with the disease to enhance the number of those seeking screening and treatment.
Cancer kills 9 women per day, and this is cancer that can not only be prevented, but if detected early, it can be treated. So we were creating awareness so that our girls can be vaccinated against the HPV virus, the virus, and also we're encouraging our women between the ages of 25 to 49 to go for screening, because if the disease is detected earlier, it can be prevented. But cancer creates a lot of burden on our health facilities, and if we are able to eradicate cervical cancer and the other cancers, then it means that we'll be able to also save on our resources.
We have joined hands together as first ladies that we want to make sure there is zero cancer in our Republic of Kenya.
It is preventable, it is treatable, and therefore our focus is by 2030 we should be able to say zero cancer among our girls.
So the theme of this year is closing the gap in cancer care. So this simply means closing all the iniquities that people have in seeking for cancer care through maybe access and also availability of these services closer to them.
Cancer ni kitu ambao watu na tibu. Hospitali nasa kutibu. Sio uongo. Hata mimi hapa hiyo daktari ametibu mimi. Mimi ni mzima. Hata hospitalini saa hii mimi siendi. Hata kwa clinic siendi. Mimi iko tu kama binadamu.
And still on matters health, the government is being called upon to help lower the cost of infertility treatment to help families suffering to get children. Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly Gladys Boss-Sholai said the government should consider having the National Health Insurance cover fertility treatment and help many Kenyans suffering in silence. Boss was speaking at the first anniversary of the Myra In Vitro Fertilization Medical Center, where she promised to lobby the National Assembly to have such Kenyans assisted, even as she urged Kenyans to shun stigmatization or stigmatizing people facing fertility challenges.
People often don't talk about these experiences, both because they can be physically and emotionally painful, and because of the stigma and the lack of awareness about how common they are. The disproportionate burden of infertility is placed on women is one of the largest unjust biases that exist to date. Again, one of the things we must teach ourselves is to be more sensitive and to wait until the person explains to you. Don't be intrusive and start asking. If the person wanted to tell you, they would tell you.
We have also started teaching courses for the Kenyan doctors because there are not many people who are teaching these courses.
In other news, a section of leaders from Njue sub-county have petitioned the government to fast-track issuance of title deeds for the adjudicated sections of Karaba, Riakanau and Makema. Led by former Mbeere South MP Mutava Musiemi, the leaders lamented that although the land was adjudicated 40 years ago, the target beneficiaries have been living as squatters with no ownership documents of the allotted portions. Area Governor Cecily Mbarire is, however, promising to look into the issue with the aim of coming up with solutions.
Adjudication ilifanywa 40 years ago. Why have these people not got their titles? The people that are seated here have been here since in the 20s. Some people came here. It is their grandfathers who came here in the 1920s, almost 100 years ago. And this adjudication was done 40 years ago. Who can be in the way of those people getting their rights?
Tarehe moja mwezi wa 8 mwaka huu, wale watu wako Njue wote tutaenda zote mpaka pale kwa district land adjudication Kiretire. Wewe tukachukua title deed hapo.
Tumepeana muda wa miezi 6. Tutaunda wazee kuanzia wiki ijayo ambaye watafuatilia hii maneno ya kuhakikisha title zetu za Njue zimepeano. Na zile zimebaki ni Karaba adjudication, Riakanau adjudication, Kategi adjudication na Makema adjudication. Wachoro tulipeana. Tunasema Matangi naye yule mtu wako kwa hiyo Matangi hiyo shamba apewe title kwa sababu amekaa hapo kwa muda ya kutosha, over 40 years.
Now, 4 officials of Rift Valley Water Services Board and 2 officials of Lake Victoria North Water Services Board will spend the night in police custody ahead of their arraignment in court to answer to corruption charges. The 6 were arrested by EACC over irregular awarding of a 600 million shillings tender for the construction of Malaba Water and Sanitation Project. Keshoki Washira with that report.
The 6 suspects of alleged corruption include Rachel Nafula, the program coordinator, Kenya Town Sustainable Water Supply and Sanitation at Rift Valley Water Services Board, Agnes Jerop, the program accountant at Rift Valley Water Services Board, Engineer Patros Sempeyan, the program engineer at Rift Valley Water Services Board, David Keegan, procurement assistant at Rift Valley Services Board, Isaac Kiptanui, the former water provision officer at Lake Victoria North Water Services Board, and Jared Ouma, the infrastructure development officer at Lake Victoria North Water Services Board. The suspects are on the spot of award of 600 million shillings tender for construction works for Malaba Water and Sanitation Project to Magdeburg Contractors Limited, a company that lacked qualifications and capacity to deliver. The director of the company, Joram Opala Otieno, has been directed to present himself to EACC Bungoma office.
And in other news, relatives of 28 fishermen arrested by Ugandan authorities are appealing to the president to intervene and have them released by Ugandan authorities. The 28 from Buyuha Beach, Funyula in Busia were arrested by Uganda security forces while fishing in the Lake Victoria waters. The locals too are urging the Kenyan government to scale up the number of coast guards in the Kenyan waters to protect the country's fishermen from constant harassment by Ugandan forces.
Mtoto wangu wanashika Uganda, Kenya wanapeleka Uganda. Kwa nini watoto wanashika Kenya wanapeleka Uganda? Kwa nini? Serikali angalie.
Naomba serikali ya William Ruto tusaidie na jaribu kuweka security kwa sababu hao watu wanakuja mpaka hapa Kenya chini ya Suba Island.
Naomba serikali tusaidie. Wanatokanga kwa wanatusaidia, wananunua sabuni, wananunua mafuta tunakula, wananunua chakula watoto wanakula. Hata vile natoka tu hivi unaenda kukaa na watoto na njaa, sina kitu penye natoka, sina kitu. Naomba serikali nisaidie bwana wangu atoke huko.
Here to Meru County, where the Kenya Wildlife Service has been urged to construct fences around game reserves to minimize cases of human-wildlife conflict. Meru Senator Kadhuri Muronge said confining the wild animals in their natural habitat is a more sustainable solution besides compensation for damage or injuries when they stray into human settlements.
A recent destruction of crops by elephants in Igembe in Meru prompted a visit to the area by the County Commissioner Fred Ndunga, accompanied by the area Senator Kadhuri Murungi, to assess the damage. Ndunga advised the affected farmers to follow the due process in seeking compensation for the damages.
Mambo ya compensation, hiyo form iko na procedure yake. Unapojaza hiyo form, kuna officer wa KWS na officer wa agriculture wata verify on the ground kile unasema.
Ndunga also cautioned herders against invading farms in the search for pasture for their livestock. Meru Senator Kadhuri Murungi urged Kenya Wildlife Service to come up with a long-lasting solution of combating human-wildlife conflict rather besides compensating affected people.
Ningependa kabisa tupate suluhu ya kundumu katika hili jambo. Sababu hizi temporary measures tunaweka sio kitu ya kutusaidia for long term. Kwa hivyo idara ya KWS tumesema waangalie mambo mengi sana ya hii ecosystem ya huku, ndio tuweze kuangalia ni wapi tunaweza saidiana, serikali ifanya kazi yake na wananchi wafanya kazi yao, ndio hii shinda ya ndovu tumalize.
The affected farmers appreciated the move by the national government through KWS to compensate them and called for construction of a fence around the Meru Game Reserve to prevent pupils from danger while on their way to school.
Juu sababu mandovu wako na zinda, tuangaliliwe watoto juu wakati wanaenda shule wako na hatari.
Now, increased human activity is endangering water catchment areas that climate experts now warn are on the verge of drying up. The growing population and encroachment of water catchment areas is said to be contributing to their depletion. As the world prepares to mark World Wetlands Day today, Thursday, the government has been urged to reclaim and protect the water towers.
As the world prepares to mark this year's Wetlands Restoration Day on Thursday, the cry against wanton destruction of major wetlands by unchecked human activity in the country has grown louder by the day. Residents of Elgeyo Marakwet have raised concerns over Lake Kapnarok, fearing its depletion as water level at the lake decrease each passing day.
Lake Kapnarok, which has drawn a lot of conservation attention due to its being threatened, its dwindling, and also due to the overutilization of the resources in that particular lake.
Climate experts warn that if human encroachment is not checked, the water tower will be completely destroyed, which will result into scarcity of water for residents.
How do we advise those people who are digging on the catchment area up there? How do we collaborate with them so that we reduce the siltation? That is a question.
This comes as environmentalists in the area enlighten residents in Elgeyo Marakwet and the neighboring county on the need to conserve the environment.
Interventions, they are not only building the resilience of the ecosystems and the community to the climate change shocks, but also they are giving them alternative sources of livelihoods.
Meanwhile, the situation is no different in Trans Nzoia County. The area residents have pledged to support the move by the government to protect water catchment areas and its sources.
If concerted efforts are not done, these wetlands will actually disappear at an alarming rate.
More than 50% of wetland areas have been destroyed in the Western Front that has put more pressure on River Nzoia, which is the main source water in the region.
Elsewhere, residents of Siret in Kipkelion West constituency have accused the government for licensing 2 bars at Siret Trading Center, despite being just 70 meters away from Siret Primary School and Siret Secondary School. Residents are demanding the immediate closure of the bars.
Led by former councillor Richard B., the residents of Siret said efforts to air their grievances through area chiefs did not bear any fruit. The residents are, however, calling for the immediate closure of the bars.
Kutoka hiyo pass mbili imefunguliwa chusi 70 meters ni shule secondary, unaona secondary ya shule niyo na primary ako hapo 70 meters kutoka kwa paa, na sisi tumekataa ya kwamba hiyo paa ifungwe kabisa, na tunasema kwa serikali hiyo pa hatutaki, na sisi watu wa badu wa Siret na Lesirwa location tumekata.
Young people in the area also admit that most of their peers' lives are affected by alcohol, with others having lives.
Mambo ya pombe tunakataa na tunakemea, imetuathiri sisi kama vijana wadogo. Hapa tuko karibu na shule, wanafunzi wengi wameacha shule, unaona wanaleo hapa, wanatembea, hata tabia sao asituridhishi.
Residents of the area are calling on the government to act to help save especially the youth in the area.
A group of women from Kajiado County has called on the government to protect children from gender-based violence cases, including forced female genital mutilation. The women said gender-based violence is rampant as girls continue being forced into FGM before marriage, especially in ASAL counties. The group maintains that female gender is almost going through the same tribulations across the country, urging the government to step in. Women drawn from various parts of the country are championing for female gender rights after a minor was filmed being caned by a group of men before being subjected to FGM. The incident has been termed as barbaric and unfortunate.
So sisi wa mama kuekelewa uji mbele ya wanaume, mbele ya umati, tumesema hatutaki.
Kwa hivyo tunaomba wanakeketwa cha lazima, lakini wanafanyiwa kisiri na hakuna mtoto anaweza kujitokeleza.
But as much as we have to argue with them and convince them that it's still early, and the government will be showing up in light with the challenges that they are facing, we have also spoken to them to the effect that even other areas are equally suffering from central region where we come from.
It's exactly 2 p.m. East African time. We are due for a fast break, but don't go away. We still have more news, not forgetting business and also sports.
Do you have a news story to share with KBC? Get in touch swiftly on email news@kbc.co.ke or call 0723-892-654 or 0734-780-124.
And those ruins have to disappear right away.
Well, I'm not going to let that happen, Daddy. If you're really going to order to demolish those ruins, then you have no choice but to make the tractor run all over me.
Just accept it. Alonso is the boyfriend of Fabiola. With Marisol, I will see her as many times as I please.
I told you to shut up!
There's something so dark, something weird being hidden, and I honestly can't understand why he hides it. Your father has a right to have his own life, and you have no right whatsoever to meddle in it, Fabiola.
Are you telling me that Dad ordered to tear down all the ruins of the old house and all that?
Yes. Isn't that weird?
I swear that sometimes I even think that the things I always hear other people say about my father those things are not true.
And how is my dear princess?
Daddy, you and I have to talk.
Why do you sound so serious? What's going on?
I want you to tell me about Tulio Irazabal.
To get Proverbs chapter 3 verse 5 as your skiza tune, dial *811 *967 #.
Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not in your own understanding. In all your ways, submit to him, and he will make your path straight. Proverbs chapter 3, verse 5 to 6.
To get Proverbs chapter 3 verse 5, dial *811 *967 hash. *811 *967 hash.
Welcome back and thanks for keeping it Channel 1. Now, a family in Matangeni, Tana River County is asking the government through the Ministry of Defense to assist them cover their son's medical cover. According to their family, their son Ibrahim Nyundo developed a psychiatric disorder during a military mission in Somalia.
A 33-year-old former military Ibrahim Nyundo, who is said to have served in the Kenya Army for 9 years, suffered trauma after surviving a bomb explosion in El Ade, Somalia on January 15, 2016. His parents claim that their son returned home a few months after the attack incidents under a serious medication, and his health has never been the same since.
Alipokwenda Somalia, aliporudi mara pili, ndio kasikia ule wakati wale askari kwenda kule akaenda kaoa 300. Wao moja hapo alikale waliobaki moja hapo ni yeye. Na alipokuja akanambia nimekuja hapa niachiwa kazi under medical grounds. Akaniosha documents zake nini na zile za madawa zile hospitali kule kwa daktari ambako alikuwa anatibiwa kule jeshi. Akanionyesha kazioni. Lakini kwa hatuna mawasiliano tena mazuri kwa sababu vile alivyo na vile alivyo simuelewi tena hivi na hivi, pale kaanza shida nyingine, kupiga watu, katakata mapanga, kukata hii miti yangu, kona hapana.
They say his current condition has developed into violent episodes towards his family and neighbors, forcing his parents to put him under home detention.
Hali aliyo sasa ni kama mnyama msituni. Nimejaribu kila njia kwa mawasiliano na hawa wanaohusika. Wakubwa jeshi huku na huku, hawa chifu, sub chifu, nimeng'ang'ana nimeshindwa. Sisi sasa wakati hii tabu inaendelea, alienda pale mkisho akachoma nyumba yangu. Akanipiga hata naweza kuona jino moja limetoka hili. Sasa tukaona hii ni hasara, tukamfungia ndani, nikamweka ndani nyumbani rumuni kwake. Kafunga na nje. Sasa tangu nimfungie huu ni mwezi wa 4 sasa.
Ni Mungu tu, lakini mimi ndio angeanza kunikatakata ama kunivunja pahali, lakini nashukuru hakunifanya hivyo. Alimfanya hivyo babake, kumtoa jino, kumshika koo. Hata niko na mlemavu ambaye ana miaka 20 na kitu, naye alikuwa akimtoa nje, kamzungusha, kamuonyesha jua kwa macho, na ukifika karibu hataki usongee, anataka kukupiga. Sasa
his family is pleading with the government to come to their aid and offer their son necessary medical intervention.
Naomba ni kama inawezekana serikali hii tukufu nipate msaada kusaidia huyu mtoto, na imani Mkenya na alikuwa anatumikia jeshi la ya Kenya. Naomba tu kama inawezekana nisaidiwe mimi sasa.
Tunaomba kitengo husika inawezekana. Na siku haiwezekani inawezekana. Waje wamwangalie, wamuassess, alafu ikiwezekana wamchukue wakamtibu, alafu wamlete aregeshwe vile ambavyo alitolewa hapa kwetu. Kwa sababu huyu ni hatari kwetu sisi kama wakaji wa hapa.
Lucy Uside for Lunchtime News.
We hope that officer gets help. And from one appeal to another, where a 15-year-old boy in Tasia, Embakasi East constituency might fail to join secondary school due to lack of school fees despite posting good performance in the 2022 KCPE examination. Stanley Orembo scored 393, earning him a placement at Moimbirori in Embu County. His mother, Doris Loyo, says she is unemployed and can barely meet her family's daily expenses. She is appealing to well-wishers to come to their aid.
Here in Tasia Estate, there is a family in distress. Meet 15-year-old Stanley Orembo. He scored 393 in his Kenya Certificate of Primary Examinations, and he hopes to join secondary school. He was happy to get a placement at Moimbiruri Secondary, a national school in Embu County. But his excitement is slowly flickering away.
Tumepitia shida kufika hapa sana. Klasi tuliambiwa tufanye kwa bidii ili tukienda kuomba msaada kwa watu. At least watu ni tuko na max mingi, at least tunaweza saidiwa. So tumepitia changamoto kuamka 4 by 5 uko class unasoma.
His mother, Doris Loyo, is a widow and a mother of 3. Stanley is the last born son. She can't afford to pay for his school.
Nimelemewa kabisa, sina mbele na nyuma. Hadi nimegonjeka sasa, hata hisi mwili yangu nilikuwa mnono, lakini maisha imenifinya hadi hata nikitembea nasikia kama naenda kuanguka juu ya stress.
They live in this single room. She is unemployed and relies on odd jobs to meet the family daily expenses. For now, Doris finds solace in the Bible, hoping and waiting for better days ahead.
Sasa hiyo kitu anafeel hata hiyo usiku alali unapata mapema kabisa saa 11 ameamka huko balkoni, namwambia Stanley, usijali, Mungu ndio baba yenu na atawapigania, mtaenda shule, usijali, usilia ama usifanye chochote, Mungu atawasaidia, mtaenda shule.
With less than 5 days left to the set reporting date, they are appealing for help so Stanley can make his dream of becoming a civil engineer come true.
It feels so sad seeing my friend when they're prepared to the next level from 1 and I'm still just there.
Kanisa ndio ilikuwa inanisaidia. Saa zingine wa mama wenzangu wakiona mtoto ako kwa nyumba hajaenda shule, wananisaidia kitu, napeleka mtoto shule. Saa zingine nafulia wa mama manguo, nikipata kitu napeleka shule, mtoto anasoma. Lakini most of the time amesoma na kustruggle sana, alikuwa anakaa kwa nyumba. Lakini akaniambia, mama usijali, nita-achieve goals zangu, nitapita mtihani, nisome na bidii, nikuweke maisha mzuri, usihangaike tena.
They are required to raise a total of 27,000 Kenya shillings and an additional 12,500 shillings for uniform and other school requirements.
Kulipia tu school fees, anunulie uniform, anisaidie tu. Hata mimi nikisaidika, siku moja nitakuja nisaidiane sana.
Contributions can be sent through KCB Embu branch account number 1102974943 or Equity Runyenjes branch 01902786105115.
In that report, in any way that you can help. Let's now shift gears to matter security, where security officers across Kiambu County have been ordered to arrest illegal immigrants camping in the county and charge them. Interior Cabinet Secretary Kithure Kindiki has also ordered a crackdown on illicit and second-generation alcohol as well as hard drugs as the state seeks to enhance security. This comes even as residents of Shihambi village in Kakamega County decry increased cases of insecurity after 3 school-going students were mugged and robbed on their way to school. Details of this and other stories in today's County Roundup.
Speaking while inaugurating a new Assistant County Commissioner's office at Shianda Ward in Kiambaa, the CS said intruders will not be allowed to compromise the country's security. He further directed sustained war on illicit liquor, saying the government was fully committed to end the menace that has affected many families, especially in central Kenya.
Inaamrisha ya kwamba sehemu ambazo inashukiwa kuna watu ambao sio wa Kenya ambao wameingia katika nchi yetu kinyume na sheria, hao watu watafutwe, wapelekwe pale mahakamani ili tutoe orders ya kuwarudisha mahali wametoka, ili nchi yetu isiweze pata madhara.
In Shihambi village at Lurambi constituency, Kakamega County, residents want the Ministry of Interior to beef up security in the area and to bring to book persons that attacked and robbed students on their way to school. They are also calling on schools to reconsider the times they require students to be in school.
Ningesi walimu na serikali wafuate sheria ambayo minister amesema. Watoto ambao walinyang'anywa viatu, vitabu, manguo zao zote za kwenda shule walikuwa watoto 3. Tulikuwa mwendo wa saa 10, wazazi waliniambia mwendo wa saa 11 dakika 30 walikuwa watoka kwa nyumba.
Elsewhere, Narok traders have a reason to smile after the government unveiled a 100 million shillings bus park facility in Narok town. The Ministry of Lands, Public Works, Housing and Urban Development Cabinet Secretary Zakaria Njue says the station with a capacity of 120 parking slots and 180 stalls was built through the Kenya Urban Support Program and funded by the World Bank in collaboration with the county government of Narok. He added that an affordable housing project will be started in the town soon and will accommodate about 12,000 houses in a 149-acre piece of land.
If we can get about 80 acres, I can assure you, Your Excellency, we'll come up with a modern city there. With all the infrastructures that are needed, apart from the affordable housing, we also come up with a school. We also come up with a hospital and a commercial center, and that's what we are doing elsewhere.
And the British government is looking to continue with efforts of providing startup capital and business skills to youth entrepreneurs in a bid to improve livelihoods and create jobs. Speaking in Eldoret Town, UK High Commissioner to Kenya, Jane Marriott, said the program will see young entrepreneurs linked with mentors for growth.
The UK has been supporting the program that's now known as Sasakazi, Work Now, for 2 or 3 years now. So we've put about 23.1 million shillings to support the training of young tech entrepreneurs, matching them with mentors and helping get them into businesses.
Very well, let's now do business. Vehicle financing company Mogo has rolled out a financial literacy tool aimed at educating its Kenyan clients about personal budget planning and informed financial decisions. The tool has been designated. The tool has been designed to cater to customer-specific needs while providing financial education on personalized spending management.
According to the World Bank, nearly 500,000 Kenyans were lifted out of extreme poverty last year as the country bounced back from the COVID-19 disruptions that pushed 1.2 million to live below the poverty line. However, financial illiteracy is likely to negate gains made against poverty in the country, even as the economy emerges from the ravages of the COVID-19 pandemic. To address this, several financial firms are coming up with digital products to strike the balance. Mogo believes financial literacy is key in protecting people from unnecessary spending habits, unreasonable loan commitments, and financial stress.
This tool was necessitated by the need for Kenyans to understand financial literacy and make better and informed financial decisions.
Players say the tool's flexibility offers customer insights on spending while they evaluate whether new financial commitments would be a wise decision within their current budget.
We focus on productive lending, which means that we really target those people that work. We want them to borrow these assets. We want them to get these assets and to earn by having these assets.
Njue Mokami for Lunchtime News.
Moving on, the Africa Development Center, which is Microsoft's engineering arm, has partnered with Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology, JKUAT, to roll out a new curriculum for engineering students. The partnership is aimed at expanding access to digital skills training to harness opportunities in the digital space.
Microsoft Premier Engineering Arm has rolled out a new curriculum for engineering students at the Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology in a bid to improve the tech talent pipeline and reduce the skills gap between classrooms and the workplace. The initiatives range from coding classes for children, teaching basic computer skills to underprivileged individuals, to highly technical learning opportunities such as the Game of Learners Hackathon, which helps university students fine-tune their skills by building real-world solutions under the supervision of industry professionals. The partnership between the Africa Development Center and Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology is part of the Digital Transformation Strategy for Africa, which aims at providing a massive online e-skills development program to 300 million annually by the year 2025 to provide basic knowledge and skills in digital security and privacy. Irene Githinji, the ADC's Student and Education Engagement Program Manager, says while players in the technology sector are constantly on the lookout for new talent, they are frequently unable to hire directly from universities because students are mostly armed with theoretical knowledge at the expense of much-needed application skills in software engineering fundamentals. She further notes that there is need to transition from paper examination to online assessment, as most students have never sat for coding exams via online assessment, as evidence when they sit for the ADC's coding interviews. Frederick Mwoki for Lunchtime News.
Equity Bank Kenya has finalized the acquisition of certain assets and liabilities of Spire Bank following regulatory approvals. The transaction that has taken a year to complete has offered a lifeline to Spire Bank, which had accumulated losses of about 10 billion shillings.
The Central Bank of Kenya last Friday approved the acquisition of Spire Bank Limited in a deal that will see Equity Group acquire its assets and liabilities. And today, Equity Bank says it has finalized the process of bringing on board Spire Bank 20,000 deposit accounts worth about 1.23 billion shillings and 3,700 loans accounts with a loan book of 945 million shillings.
This was specified assets. We acquired specified assets, and we only acquired the assets of the customers had with the Spire Bank. So what we did was to take the two sides. We took the deposit and said who had borrowed this deposit. We took those as loans.
He says Spire Bank borrowers have the option of restructuring their loans.
If they want better arrangement, if they had a loan which was 2 years and they are feeling the pain of repayment, we'll discuss, negotiate with them. We can prolong the period to make sure that none of these borrowers are able.
The acquisition that has taken a year to complete has offered a lifeline to Spire Bank, which has been facing financial challenges.
Did not calculate properly what we were getting into, mostly looking at the future prospects of the industry, purposely on liquidity.
So instead of waiting for another 2 years for the losses that accumulate to wipe out the bank capital, we said no, we cannot move in that direction. And that's why we're here.
Mwalimu National Circle acquired Spire Bank in the year 2014.
Now, the private sector should enhance their commitment to support climate adaptation in light of frequent droughts. Global Center Adaptation Food Security Program lead Oluyede Ajayi is urging the private sector to increase investments in green bonds.
Africa faces a funding gap of $41.3 billion for climate adoption initiatives that experts say can be bridged by the private sector.
Some of this private sector have installed equipment. They have set up factories like agro-processing factories, right? Enterprises. They rely on agricultural production for the raw materials. So if climate change impacts on productivity and the productivity is low, that means the opportunity for this private sector and the machinery that they have installed to be able to get raw materials to continue to run their industries will be impacted as well.
So far, Africa requires $52.7 billion for climate change adoption, with donor funding inflows currently at 53% of this amount. To achieve this, Experts want the pricing of carbon credits streamlined to incentivize alternative climate financing.
Because if you do it and farmers, for example, sequester quite a lot of carbon, they cannot eat it. So how do you negotiate the price? Okay, so how do you ensure that the price is stable? So farmers make informed decision, or whoever is planting, make informed decision and say, okay, this is what I expect as the amount of carbon, and this is the amount of what it translates to in terms of Kenyan shilling.
Africa contributes 4 to 5% of total carbon emissions. As such, experts opine that focus should be laid on climate adoption and not focusing on reduction of emissions into the environment.
Kenya is among African countries to receive $25 billion to go towards climate change adoption and mitigation from the Africa Development Bank and other development partners.
Cameroon is facing a fuel price increase by 15% after the International Monetary Fund put pressure on the government to cut its fuel subsidy. Here are the details of these and other stories making headlines from across Africa.
International Monetary Fund (IMF) says it has recognized the need to reduce costly fuel subsidies, which is unsustainable under the current international oil price projections and poorly targeted to those in need and crowd out priority spending. The fuel subsidies represent 6 times the budget allocated to agriculture, 4 times that of health, and over 3 times the budget allocation for energy and water. The IMF says the fuel subsidy reform will need to be accompanied by measures to mitigate the impact of the most vulnerable, including cash transfers. The IMF is scheduled to advance Cameroon a loan of 68.5 million euros. Elsewhere, Microsoft Corp rolled out a premium Teams messaging offering powered by ChatGPT to simplify meetings using the AI chatbot that has taken Silicon Valley by a storm. The premium service will cost $7 per month initially before increasing to $10 monthly. Microsoft, which announced a multi-billion-dollar investment on OpenAI early this month, says it aims to adapt ChatGPT's technology into all its products, setting the stage for more competition with its rival Google. Finally, 26 people have been electrocuted in DRC's capital, Kinshasa, after a high-voltage power cable snapped and fell into a drainage ditch. The incident occurred in a popular food market, and most victims were market traders and customers. The National Power Company attributed the incident to a lightning strike that severed the cable. It is said that the Land Ministry had illegally issued permits for market stalls placed under the electricity cables.
Time to play, and we begin in Morocco, where the country is bidding to host the Africa Cup of Nations for the first time in history in the year 2025. Among the main venues in the bid is the Mohammed VI Sports Complex in Rabat. The stadium has 2 modern training facilities beside the 2 main football pitches, an indoor and an outdoor playing field.
The Mohammed VI Football Complex exemplifies as one of the best football centers in the world, while Morocco's impressive rail and road networks could be added advantage. The bidding process for the 2025 were opened by CAF in October last year, in which member associations were invited to express their interest, whose deadline for submitting declaration of interest form was November 11th, 2022, and December 16th as deadline for submitting final bids. On January 5th to 25th were infrastructure inspection visits, and February 10th as the day to appoint the successful host country CAF Executive Committee. Morocco is bidding to host the Africa Cup of Nations for the first time in history in the year 2025.
João Cancelo made an instant impact on his Bayern Munich debut as they cruised into the German Cup quarter-final with a 4-0 win over Mainz at the Mewa Arena. Meanwhile, former Chelsea striker Tim Werner scored late to help German Cup holders RB Leipzig beat Hoffenheim 3-1 to reach the quarterfinals.
For João Cancelo, whose signing caught the football world off guard.
Eric Maxim Choupo-Moting scored an opening goal for Bayern Munich in the 17th minute, while Jamal Musiala drilled home a second goal before Leroy Sané calm finish made it 3-0 before the first half.
Kicked away there by Finn Darm at the near post. Kimmich on here now to find João Cancelo for Bayern. Takes on Aaron Martin. And still here for Bayern, João Cancelo. The cross, precise for Eric Maxim Choupo-Moting to finish. The goal belongs to him, okay, but the assist from João Cancelo. Coman in for Thomas Müller. Müller combines with Jamal Musiala, who scores now in 3 successive rounds in this season's DFB Pokal. Darman clear. In the league meeting back in the autumn, the team shared 8 goals, a 6-2 Bayern win in Munich. Here's Choupo-Moting with Cassie, and the flick on for Sané.